If you don't already know, I own an Interceptor 650, and though I love the motorcycle, there are a few changes I've made to it so that it suits me better. I will be making a full-fledged video on what are the changes that I've made and whether it makes sense to make all those changes for you, but I'll make that video later. Today I'm just going to talk about the rear suspension upgrade. I've already made an upgrade to the front suspension with YSS fork kit, and the one I've got for the rear is also a YSS setup. And I have gone for the top spec black edition. So you get adjustability for preload, you get adjustability for compression and rebound damping, and you can increase the overall length of the suspension as well by about 5 mm, but it doesn't increase the suspension travel in that sense. There was some confusion which I had created on the various platforms that I spoke about in terms of pricing. So just to make it clear, the front upgrade costs about 23,000 rupees, and the rear upgrade, which we're going to talk about today, is about 61,000 rupees. And like the front, you can get your YSS rear suspension upgrade also at Indie Motard. They're an outfit that is based out of Bangalore. They have a website, and they're very, very prompt in terms of doing this stuff, so they will be able to help you out as well. So yeah, that's the place to get it. And now let's just get into our rear suspension upgrade. Now, so let's talk about installing the rear shock absorbers on the Interceptor. It's a one-man job, it's an easy job. All you need is, of course, you need the shock absorbers, and then you need two tools. You need one Allen key and one wrench. I will give you the specs for those because I don't remember it offhand. And then the way to go about it is that thankfully the Interceptor 650 comes with a center stand, so it's a lot easier to do it. You have to take one old one out first, put the new one, then go to the second one, pull that out and put the new one. And what I've found a good way to do that is to first take the stock rear suspension up full on preload, so that gives you the length. I think it gives you about 37.5, which is a good length. And I say good length because your new suspension is a pretty long one. So otherwise you will not a pretty long one, but you know, that's a good height to go for. And it becomes difficult to fit it in if you don't go for the full preload on the stock one. For the new suspension, my suggestion would be to completely go out on preload, which means there's no preload. And also in terms of compression and rebound damping, the thing to do would be to turn it out completely, which means there's absolutely no compression or rebound damping that you've added. Whatever is there is there. And that way it becomes easy to compress the shock, because that's what you'll need to do once you put it on the bike. Now, when you're next to the bike, of course, loosen up the top, which is an Allen key thing, then loosen the rear mount, which is where you'll need a wrench because there's a bolt. Now, I found it very difficult to open the bottom one because I didn't have a long enough wrench, so I used some jugaad and I added leverage, and then of course it opened. But if you've got a longer wrench, that of course helps. And then you of course take it out. You take it out from the top, you take it out from the bottom, and then you put the new one in. Now, when you're putting the new one in, it's a good idea to put the bottom first, because the one on the top, it's easier to compress, and then just push it inside. There's already a slot there. And then of course you tighten it, and that's it. I mean, it doesn't take too long. If you have these hacks in place already, you won't have to go back and forth a little like I had to. So that helps out. And then of course you've done one, and then you do the other, and that's it. I mean, it's done. You're ready with your new suspension. Now the question is to set it up. Let's talk about that. So the first thing that you need to do when you set up your rear suspension is to set up sag, which is exactly what we did for the front as well. And it is a two-man job, unlike the fixing the suspension, which was just you alone can do it. So get a friend, ask your teenage son, or if your wife's willing, ask her to join you. There's no manual labor involved for them. All you have to do, you have to do that all yourself. So they're just there to measure and write it down, but it's a two-man job, right? So the thing to do is that first mark a point on the bike. So you have two exact points to go to. Use the axle and use the rear carrier or whatever you have there. We put a tape on it and then marked an arrow, so we knew exactly what to do, where to go. With that done, you want to pick up the bike on the side stand, so you have full extension on it. You measure that, you put it down, you sit on the motorcycle, use the wall for support. Ideally, you need to do it in your riding gear, but I was just lazy, so I just did it, in just general clothing. And then you measure that, and you want to be about 30 to 35 mm of sag is what you want to go for, because the suspension travel, the stock suspension is 88. I think this is a little longer, but I've not been able to get how much longer it is in terms of travel. But let's just say for the stock 88, you need about just about 30 mm. So you can play between 30 and 35 mm of sag. Now, if you are getting too much, there's a lot of difference between your fully extended and your when you're seated, that sort of value. Then you need to keep adding preload till you get to about 35 to 30 mm. So that's setting sag. But now, since this motorcycle, this suspension has the option of adjusting rebound and compression, and you're completely at zero because that's what you did when you installed the shock. My suggestion would be to go 5 clicks. Not 5 full turns, but 5 clicks on both, and ride it and see how it feels. For me, the rebound felt fine at 5, the compression not so much. So right now I'm running 10 and 10 clicks on both, apart from the preload. And again, I'm very happy with the rebound damping. There's no kicking that happens when it's exiting a bump or a ditch. There's nothing that it doesn't throw you up. You never ever leave the seat, at least for my weight and my setting. And the bike just goes up and settles down. Even when you go through a ditch, even then it'll just go in and settle. So there's no oscillation that happens, which is great. So the bike feels very stable. It might feel a little stiff in the setting that I'm in, which is 10 clicks for both at slower speeds, but it's not jarring, it's not backbreaking, it's not something that'll leave you uncomfortable. But as you go faster, it just gets better and better. And I've set this up for ride comfort right now, because that's what I've been using. I've just been riding the motorcycle on our lovely monsoon Mumbai roads. Maybe when I take it out onto the twisties, maybe I'll want to make some changes to improve its handling. But for now, I think it's working. And immediately compared to the stock suspension, I already have a tail-up stance. The moment I sit on it, I can tell. Steering, for my need, I think it needs to be slightly quicker even at slower speeds, but I've not been able to find that sort of balance. I'll continue to work on it. But as I see it, I think you can work with 5 clicks for rebound and compression to begin with after you've set your sag, and then you can keep going up. For me, like I said, 10 clicks is working fine for now, but of course I'll keep changing. And if I do, and if I find something that's a better setup, I'll of course get back. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please go ahead to ask. Thanks.